Okay, so have you ever felt like just emotionally swamped?
Oh, totally.
Like between like exams and
Yeah.
social media and like figuring out your life. It's easy to feel just drained.
Yeah.
It's like our feelings need like a refresh.
Like a reset button.
Yeah.
It's interesting, right? We're so focused on like
Totally.
our physical wellness, but what about our emotions? You know,
for sure.
Giving them a little TLC. So today we're diving into some ideas that can help you clear out that emotional gunk.
Yeah.
And just rediscover like that feeling of being you.
Yeah. I'm here for that.
Yeah.
Where do we even begin with this emotional detox thing? Sounds a bit intense.
Well, you know, it doesn't have to be about like going off the grid or anything, but it's definitely about like inner work.
Yeah.
Like the first step is acknowledging like what's causing that heaviness. It's like we're making a treasure map and we gotta find those spots where all that negative energy is.
I like that.
Yeah. Building up. Okay, so like what are some common X marks the spot we should be looking at?
Okay, so think about those things that consistently drain your energy.
Okay.
So is it a specific person?
Okay.
Is it a situation? Is it a habit that's got you feeling down?
Yeah.
So it could be anything from a friendship that's become more drama than fun, or like feeling overwhelmed by that pressure to be perfect online.
Okay, yeah, I'm already feeling a bit called out here.
Right.
So once we've identified these drains, what's the next step on this treasure map?
Okay, so this is where it gets really interesting.
Okay.
The connection between our mind and body is way more powerful than we realize.
Okay.
Even small shifts in your daily routine can have a huge impact.
I'm all ears.
Okay, so you know how you might reach for that sugary energy drink for like a late night study session? So it turns out those quick fixes can actually make you feel more drained and anxious in the long run.
Really? I never thought about it that way. It's true.
Wow.
Yeah. Swapping those out for like healthier choices like water or herbal tea can have a surprisingly positive effect on your mood and your focus.
Wow.
It's like giving your brain a clean source of fuel instead of running on fumes.
Okay, I could definitely try to make that change. What about like the mental clutter?
Right.
Those thoughts that keep swirling around in your head.
Ah, yes, the mental clutter.
Yeah.
So one technique that's super helpful is a brain dump.
Okay, I've heard of that. Is that where you just let it all out?
Yes.
Your thoughts and feelings just...
You got it. It's like a verbal vomit.
Okay.
Don't worry about making it pretty or grammatically correct. Just write down everything.
Okay.
That's clogging up your mental space. Worries, frustrations, random to-do lists, everything.
Okay.
And what's fascinating is that once you see it all laid out, you might start to notice some patterns. Are there certain themes or worries that keep popping up?
Right.
And that's your treasure map pointing you towards the areas that need the most attention.
So it's like decluttering your mind. Like Marie Kondoing your emotions.
I love that analogy.
Yeah.
And once you've kind of started to clear out that mental clutter, one of the most important things you can do is practice being present.
Okay.
I know.
I know it sounds cheesy.
It sounds like a cheesy self-help cliche.
Right.
Hear me out.
Okay. I'm willing to give it a shot.
Yeah.
But what does being present actually look like?
Okay.
Especially for us Gen Zers who are basically glued to our phones 24/7.
Right. It's about becoming aware of where your attention is going and making a conscious choice to focus on one thing at a time.
Okay.
So you know how you might be scrolling through TikTok while trying to listen to a lecture and text your friend?
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, our brains just aren't wired for that kind of multitasking. It makes us less efficient and way more stressed.
Yeah, I've definitely felt that scattered brain feeling.
Yeah.
So what are some practical things we can do to be more present?
Okay.
I'm picturing myself like meditating on a mountaintop, and that's just not my vibe.
It doesn't have to be that extreme.
Okay.
Start with small changes.
Okay.
How about putting your phone away during meals?
Okay.
And actually enjoying the food. Or setting a timer for how long you'll spend on social media each day.
Oh,
You could even try like a quick mindfulness exercise.
okay.
There are tons of apps with guided meditations that are just a few minutes long. Even those little moments of presence can help you feel more centered and calm.
Okay, those are totally doable.
Yeah.
But what about those really stubborn emotional drains?
Yeah.
Those things that just keep coming back no matter what you do.
Yeah.
Like, I'm pretty sure my Instagram feed is responsible for 80% of my anxiety.
Ah, the ever-present social media dilemma.
Yeah.
Okay, so it's not about deleting all your accounts and going off the grid.
Right.
It's about becoming more mindful of how those online experiences make you feel.
Okay.
So are there certain accounts that always trigger negativity or FOMO, maybe unfollowing those would be a good first step.
So you're basically saying I need to curate my online experience like I'm creating a mood board for my emotions.
Exactly. Fill your feed with accounts that inspire you, make you laugh, or teach you something new.
Right.
It's about creating a digital space that supports your emotional well-being.
That makes so much sense.
Yeah.
It's like cleaning out your closet.
Yeah.
You get rid of the clothes you never wear.
Yeah.
And make room for pieces that actually make you feel good.
Perfect analogy.
Yeah.
And while we're on the topic of things that no longer serve us, let's talk about those not so healthy coping mechanisms that we all tend to rely on.
Okay. Spill the tea. What are we talking about here?
Okay. So think about those things you do to numb out or escape.
Okay.
When you're feeling stressed or overwhelmed, it could be anything from binge eating your favorite comfort foods to like zoning out with video games for hours on end.
Yeah.
Those quick fixes might provide temporary relief, but they can actually make you feel worse in the long run.
So what's the alternative? What are some healthier ways to channel that energy?
This is where it gets really exciting. We're talking about finding positive outlets that bring you joy and help you de-stress in a way that actually nourishes your mind and body.
I'm all about that.
Yeah.
Give us the goods.
Yeah.
What are some specific things Gen Z can try?
Okay, well, there are so many options.
Yeah.
It could be anything from learning a TikTok dance to starting a YouTube channel to getting involved in activism.
Right.
Maybe you rediscover a childhood passion for painting or writing, or maybe you find a new love for rock climbing or volunteering at an animal shelter.
Yeah.
It's all about exploring different activities and discovering what lights you up.
I love that instead of numbing out, we're turning up the volume on the things that make us feel alive.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And one thing I want to emphasize here, especially for Gen Z who are facing a lot of pressure to succeed, is that finding those positive outlets isn't about being perfect or achieving some grand accomplishment. It's about the process of exploration, of trying new things and discovering what brings you joy.
Okay, that takes the pressure off.
Right.
What about dealing with like lingering negative emotions, like holding on to grudges or beating ourselves up over past mistakes? I feel like that emotional baggage can really weigh you down.
You're absolutely right.
Yeah.
And that brings us to one of the most important but often overlooked aspects of emotional detox.
Okay.
Forgiveness.
Forgiveness. That sounds a bit heavy.
I know it can feel intimidating, but trust me, it's incredibly liberating.
Okay.
Holding on to grudges, whether against yourself or others, just adds more weight to carry.
Yeah, it's like dragging around a suitcase full of rocks.
Exactly.
Yeah.
It's going to make it a lot harder to move forward.
Right.
Forgiveness isn't about condoning bad behavior.
Okay.
It's about acknowledging the hurt, processing it, and choosing to let it go for your own well-being. It's like clearing out space in your emotional backpack, so you can fill it with lighter, more joyful things.
Okay, that forgiveness analogy really landed for me. Like, why would I want to keep carrying around all that emotional baggage?
Right.
It's time to lighten the load.
Yeah.
But how do we actually do that? I mean, it's easier said than done, right?
Absolutely. Forgiveness is a process, not a switch you can just flip on.
Yeah.
It takes time and intention. But the rewards are so worth it.
Okay, I'm intrigued. What are some actionable steps we can take to start letting go of those grudges?
Okay, so first, you need to acknowledge the hurt that's been caused.
Okay.
Don't try to sweep it under the rug or pretend it doesn't matter.
Right.
Allow yourself to feel those emotions fully without judgment.
So it's like giving those feelings a safe space to exist.
Exactly.
Even if they're not very pleasant.
It's about honoring your own experiences.
Okay.
Once you've acknowledged the hurt, you can start to explore the reasons behind the other person's actions.
Okay.
This doesn't mean excusing their behavior, but it can help you develop empathy and understanding.
That's an interesting perspective. So instead of just labeling someone as the bad guy, we're trying to see the situation from their point of view.
Precisely.
Okay.
It's about recognizing that everyone makes mistakes. And often those mistakes stem from their own pain or insecurities.
Right.
It's like remembering that even villains have origin stories.
Right. Okay, I'm getting this. But what if the person who hurt me never apologizes?
Right.
Or takes responsibility for their actions? Do I still have to forgive them?
That's a tough one.
Yeah.
And it's something a lot of people struggle with.
For sure.
But here's the key. Forgiveness isn't about the other person.
Okay.
It's about you. It's about releasing yourself from the burden of anger and resentment.
So even if the other person doesn't deserve it,
yeah,
I deserve to let go of that negativity.
Yes. Think of it as a gift you give yourself.
Okay.
By choosing forgiveness, you're reclaiming your own emotional power. You're breaking free from the past and opening yourself up to a more peaceful and joyful future.
Wow, that's a powerful way to think about it. Okay, I'm sold on the whole forgiveness thing. But now I'm curious. Once we've cleared out all that emotional clutter,
right?
What do we do with the empty space? How do we actually build a positive emotional space?
That's where the real magic happens.
Okay.
It's about filling that void with things that bring you joy, make you feel alive, and nourish your soul.
Good.
Think of it as creating an emotional oasis.
I love that imagery.
A space where you can recharge and reconnect with your truest self.
So what are some things Gen Z can do to create that kind of space?
Well, first, it's important to get really clear about what truly matters to you.
Yeah, cool.
What are your values? What are your passions? What lights you up and makes you feel excited to be alive?
It's like figuring out what makes your soul sing.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
Once you have a better understanding of your own inner landscape, you can start to cultivate experiences that nourish those parts of yourself.
Okay, so give us some ideas. What are some specific things Gen Z can do to fill their emotional oasis with good vibes?
Well, it could be anything from spending time in nature to exploring creative hobbies to connecting with like-minded people. Maybe you find solace in writing poetry, expressing yourself through dance, or losing yourself in the world of video games. The key is to find activities that make you feel connected to something bigger than yourself.
Right.
Something that sparks your curiosity and brings you a sense of purpose.
So it's not about following some prescribed formula for happiness.
Right.
It's about discovering what uniquely brings you joy.
Absolutely.
Okay.
And remember, it's not about achieving some grand accomplishment.
Right.
It's about the process of exploration, of trying new things and discovering what resonates with you.
This is all starting to make sense. It's like instead of focusing on external validation or chasing after fleeting trends, we're going inward and building a foundation of joy from within.
You got it. Yeah. And once you've started to create that positive emotional space, it's important to nourish it with daily practices that cultivate gratitude, self-compassion, and resilience.
Okay. Give us the lowdown on those practices. What are some simple things Gen Z can do to keep those good vibes flowing?
Well, one of the most powerful tools is gratitude.
Okay.
It's about taking time each day to appreciate the good things in your life, even the seemingly small or mundane things.
Like being grateful for that perfectly frothed latte.
Exactly.
Or finding a parking spot right in front of your destination.
It's about shifting your focus to the positive and recognizing all the blessings you already have.
Okay.
You could start by keeping a gratitude journal where you write down a few things you're thankful for each day. Or you could simply make it a habit to pause throughout your day and mentally acknowledge the things that bring you joy.
I love that. It's like training your brain to spot the good stuff instead of always dwelling on the negative.
Precisely.
Yeah.
And another essential practice for building a positive emotional space is self-compassion.
Okay.
It's about treating yourself with the same kindness and understanding you would offer to a close friend who's going through a tough time.
So it's like being your own best friend instead of your own worst critic.
Exactly.
Okay.
It's about offering yourself grace and forgiveness when you make mistakes.
Right.
Recognizing that you're doing the best you can with the resources you have. It's about silencing that inner critic and replacing those negative self-talk tapes with messages of love and support.
That sounds so much nicer than constantly beating myself up.
Right.
But how do you actually do that? It's like I've been my own worst critic for so long, it's almost become a habit.
It definitely takes practice, but it's so worth it.
Okay.
One technique you can try is to simply notice when that inner critic starts to pipe up. Pay attention to the language you use when you talk to yourself.
Okay.
Are you being harsh, judgmental, or critical?
Yeah, I'm definitely guilty of that.
Yeah.
It's like my inner monologue is a never-ending roast battle.
Well, it's time to call a truce.
Okay.
When you notice those negative thought patterns, try to rephrase them in a more compassionate and understanding way.
Okay.
Instead of saying, I'm so stupid, I can't believe I messed that up.
Right.
You could say, everyone makes mistakes. I'm learning and growing from this experience.
It's like offering a hug to that inner child who's feeling hurt and lost, instead of just yelling at them to toughen up.
You're getting it.
Yeah.
Self-compassion is about creating a safe and nurturing space within yourself where you can heal and grow.
I'm all about that.
Yeah.
Okay, so we've talked about gratitude and self-compassion.
Right.
What was that third practice you mentioned?
Yes, resilience.
Right.
It's about developing the strength and flexibility to bounce back from challenges, setbacks, and disappointments.
Okay.
It's about knowing that life isn't always going to be sunshine and rainbows.
Right.
But you have the inner resources to cope with whatever comes your way.
Resilience is like having emotional shock absorbers, right?
That's a great analogy.
Yeah.
Helping you navigate those bumpy roads without completely falling apart.
Right. And how do we build those shock absorbers?
Well, one key ingredient is having a strong support system.
Right. It's about having those people in your life who you can lean on when things get tough.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Whether it's family, friends, mentors, therapists, or even online communities.
Right.
Having people you can trust and confide in makes a world of difference. They can offer different perspectives, help you process difficult emotions, and remind you that you're not alone in your struggles.
It's like having a team of cheerleaders reminding you that you're strong and capable even when you don't feel like it.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And another crucial aspect of resilience is taking care of your physical well-being.
Right.
Remember that mind-body connection we talked about earlier? Well, it works both ways.
Yeah.
When you nourish your body with healthy food, regular exercise, and enough sleep, you're also giving your mind the resources it needs to stay strong and resilient.
Okay, that makes sense. But I have to be honest. Sometimes self-care feels like another item on my never-ending to-do list.
Right.
How do we make it a priority when we're already feeling overwhelmed?
That's a great question.
Yep.
And it's something a lot of people, especially Gen Z, struggle with. Here's the thing. Self-care doesn't have to be elaborate or time-consuming.
Okay.
It can be as simple as taking 5 minutes to stretch, listen to your favorite song, or just breathe deeply.
So it's about finding those little pockets of joy throughout the day.
Exactly.
Even when things are hectic.
It's about making small, sustainable changes that add up over time.
Okay.
It's about treating yourself with the same kindness and consideration you would offer to a loved one.
This is all so insightful. I'm already feeling more empowered to take charge of my emotional well-being. But I'm curious, is emotional detox something we do once and then we're good to go?
That's a fantastic question.
Or is it more of an ongoing process?
And it leads us to the final piece of the puzzle.
Okay.
Maintaining your emotional well-being.
Okay.
It's like tending to a garden.
Okay.
It requires ongoing care and attention to keep those plants thriving.
Okay, so what are some key things to remember when it comes to keeping our emotional gardens blooming?
Well, the first thing is to recognize that emotional detox isn't about achieving some kind of perfect state of bliss.
Okay.
Where you never experience negative emotions again.
So it's not about becoming some kind of emotionless robot, right?
Exactly.
Okay.
It's about learning to manage your emotions in a healthy way so they don't control your life.
Okay.
It's about developing the awareness and the tools to navigate the inevitable ups and downs of life with more grace and resilience.
So it's more about becoming an emotional ninja, skillfully navigating those emotional waves without getting totally wiped out.
I love that analogy.
Yeah.
It's about developing a sense of mastery over your own inner world.
Okay, I'm all about becoming an emotional ninja. But how do we actually do that? What are some specific things Gen Z can do to maintain that sense of emotional well-being?
Well, one of the most important things is to establish healthy boundaries.
Boundaries. Like setting limits with people who drain my energy or saying no to things that don't align with my values.
Precisely.
Okay. It's about protecting your emotional energy and making sure you're not overextending yourself.
That sounds so empowering.
Yeah.
But how do we actually set boundaries without feeling guilty?
Yeah.
Or like we're letting people down? It's like, I'm a people pleaser by nature. It's hard for me to say no.
I hear you. It's a common struggle.
Yeah.
But here's the thing. Saying no to others is often saying yes to yourself.
Okay.
It's about honoring your own needs and priorities.
So it's not selfish to set boundaries.
Right.
It's actually an act of self-care.
Exactly.
Oh.
And when you start setting those boundaries, you'll be surprised how much more time and energy you have to devote to the things that truly matter to you. Okay, I'm ready to start building those boundary walls.
Yeah.
But what are some other key things Gen Z should keep in mind when it comes to maintaining emotional well-being?
Well, it's also about staying connected to those things that bring you joy and make you feel alive. Remember that emotional oasis we talked about earlier?
Yeah.
Make sure you're regularly tending to that space.
Okay.
Adding fresh flowers, pruning away the dead leaves, and keeping the water flowing.
It's like making sure our emotional gardens are getting enough sunlight and TLC, right?
Precisely.
Okay.
And another crucial aspect of maintenance is developing a regular practice of self-reflection.
Self-reflection. What does that look like?
It could be anything from journaling to meditation to simply taking a few minutes each day to check in with yourself and see how you're feeling.
So it's like having a regular date with yourself where you get to process your emotions and see what's working and what needs to be adjusted.
Exactly. Self-reflection is about developing a deeper understanding of yourself, your patterns, and your triggers.
Right.
It's about becoming the expert on your own emotional landscape.
This is all so eye-opening. I'm starting to see emotional detox as less of a one-time cleanse and more of a lifelong journey of self-discovery.
You're absolutely right.
Yeah.
It's about embracing the ongoing process of growth and evolution.
I'm so ready for this journey.
Yeah.
But before we move on to the final part of our deep dive, I have a question. You mentioned earlier that the mind-body connection works both ways.
Yes.
So if we're putting in the effort to detox our emotions, what are some things we can do on the physical side to support that process?
That's a great question.
Yeah.
And it's something that's often overlooked when it comes to emotional well-being.
Okay.
We tend to think of our minds and bodies as separate entities, but the truth is they're deeply interconnected. What we do with our bodies affects our minds and vice versa.
So if we're decluttering our emotional closets, we should probably give our physical closets a makeover too, right?
Exactly. Yeah. It's about creating a holistic approach to well-being where we're nourishing both our minds and our bodies.
Okay, I'm on board. But give us the specifics. What are some things Gen Z can do on the physical side to support their emotional detox journey?
Well, one of the most powerful things you can do is to move your body regularly.
Okay.
And I'm not necessarily talking about intense workouts at the gym.
Okay.
It could be something as simple as going for a walk in nature, dancing to your favorite music, or trying out a yoga class.
Right.
The key is to find activities that you enjoy and that help you feel good in your body.
Movement is like a reset button for both your mind and body, right?
Exactly.
Yeah.
It releases those feel-good endorphins and helps clear out all that mental and physical clutter.
Right. And another important aspect of physical self-care is getting enough sleep.
Absolutely.
I know it's tempting to stay up late, scrolling through social media or binge watching your favorite shows.
Right.
But those late nights can really take a toll on your emotional well-being.
Sleep deprivation is like kryptonite for your mental health. It makes everything feel harder, right?
Yeah, for sure. When you're sleep deprived, your emotions are more likely to run high, you're less able to cope with stress, and your overall mood just takes a nosedive.
Absolutely.
So make sure you're prioritizing those 7 to 8 hours of quality sleep each night.
Right.
It's like recharging your batteries so you can face the day with a clear head and a positive attitude.
Exactly.
And one final tip for optimizing your physical health for emotional well-being is to be mindful of your environment.
Right.
Surround yourself with things that make you feel good, whether that's natural light calming colors, inspiring artwork, or even just a clean and organized space.
It's all about creating a sanctuary for your mind and body, right? Yeah. A space where you can feel safe, relaxed, and inspired.
Exactly. The more you can nurture your physical well-being, the more you'll support your emotional detox journey to create a life that feels truly balanced and fulfilling. Wow. This has been such an eye-opening conversation. We've covered so much ground, from understanding the importance of forgiveness and cultivating self-compassion to setting healthy boundaries and moving our bodies. I'm feeling so inspired to take charge of my emotional well-being.
Me too. It's been a truly enriching conversation.
But before we wrap up this part of our deep dive, I want to circle back to something you mentioned earlier about those not so healthy coping mechanisms that we all tend to rely on when we're feeling stressed or overwhelmed.
Yes, those habits that we turn to for quick fixes, but often end up making us feel worse in the long run.
Exactly. So let's dive a bit deeper into that topic. What are some common vices that Gen Z might be grappling with, and what are some healthier alternatives they can try instead?
Well, one of the most prevalent vices in today's digital age is, of course, excessive social media use.
No surprise there. It's like our phones have become an extension of ourselves. We're constantly connected, constantly scrolling, constantly comparing ourselves to others.
It's true.
Yeah.
And while social media can certainly have its benefits, it's important to be aware of how it's impacting your emotional well-being.
Right.
If you find yourself feeling anxious, inadequate, or envious after spending time online, it might be a sign that you need to reevaluate your relationship with social media.
So what's the antidote to the social media spiral? What are some healthier ways for Gen Z to connect and engage online?
Well, one approach is to be more intentional about the content you're consuming.
Okay.
Instead of mindlessly scrolling through your feed, actively seek out accounts that inspire you, make you laugh, or teach you something new.
Like creating a digital garden of positivity, right?
Exactly.
Yeah.
Surrounding yourself with content that nourishes your mind and soul.
And another strategy is to set limits on your social media use. Maybe you designate specific times a day when you allow yourself to check your apps.
Right.
Or maybe you set a timer to make sure you're not getting sucked into the endless scroll.
It's about taking back control of your time and attention, right?
Yeah.
Choosing how you want to spend your precious energy instead of letting those algorithms dictate your every move.
Exactly. And another vice that's particularly relevant for Gen Z is the pressure to achieve.
Right.
To constantly be striving for success and perfection.
Yeah. Yeah.
Oh, yeah. That's a big one. It's like we're constantly bombarded with messages that tell us we need to be doing more, achieving more, being more.
Right.
It's exhausting.
It really is. Yeah. And this constant pressure to perform can lead to burnout anxiety and a sense of never feeling good enough.
So how do we break free from that achievement trap? What's the antidote to the hustle culture mentality?
Well, one important step is to reframe our definition of success.
Okay.
Instead of measuring our worth by external achievements or comparing ourselves to others,
right,
we can focus on cultivating a sense of inner fulfillment and purpose.
So it's about finding joy in the journey, not just obsessing over the destination.
Exactly.
Yeah.
It's about celebrating our progress, honoring our efforts, and recognizing that true success is about living a life that feels authentic and meaningful to us.
That's such a refreshing perspective.
Yeah.
But how do we actually put that into practice?
Yeah.
I mean, it's easier said than done to just switch off that inner critic and stop comparing ourselves to others.
It definitely takes practice.
Right.
But one thing you can try is to start focusing on your own unique strengths and talents.
Okay.
What are the things you're naturally good at?
Right.
What are the activities that bring you joy and make you feel energized?
Like rediscovering those hidden gems within ourselves, right?
Exactly. Yeah. Those things that make us shine brightly.
Okay, so we've talked about social media and the pressure to achieve. What are some other common vices that Gen Z might be struggling with?
Oh, another big one is procrastination.
Oh, yeah. Procrastination's my middle name.
I hear you.
It's like, I know I need to do something, but I just can't seem to get myself started.
Right.
I end up wasting so much time and energy stressing about it.
Procrastination can be a real energy drain.
Yeah.
And it often stems from fear of perfectionism or a lack of clarity about our priorities.
So how do we break free from the procrastination trap?
Well, one helpful strategy is to break down large tasks into smaller, more manageable steps.
It's like instead of trying to climb Mount Everest all at once, we're focusing on taking one step at a time.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And another helpful tip is to create a schedule and stick to it as much as possible.
Okay.
Having a structured routine can help you stay on track and avoid getting overwhelmed.
It's like giving your day a framework so you're not just floating around aimlessly.
Exactly.
And finally, it's important to reward yourself for your accomplishments, no matter how small.
Right.
So it's like giving ourselves a little pat on the back for each step we take in the right direction.
Exactly. Celebrating those small wins can help you stay motivated and keep moving forward.
Okay, so we've talked about social media, the pressure to achieve, and procrastination.
Yeah.
What about those vices that are a bit more, well, tangible? Like those things we consume that can impact our mood and energy levels?
You're talking about things like unhealthy food, excessive caffeine, or even alcohol and drugs.
Yeah, exactly. It's like we all know those things aren't good for us.
Right.
But sometimes they're so tempting in the moment, especially when we're feeling stressed or down.
It's true. Those quick fixes can provide temporary relief.
Yeah.
But they often end up making us feel worse in the long run.
So what are some healthier alternatives that Gen Z can try?
Yeah.
What can we reach for instead of that bag of chips or that extra shot of espresso?
Well, when it comes to food, it's all about nourishing your body with whole, nutrient-dense foods that give you sustained energy and support your mood.
Okay.
Think of things like fruits, vegetables, whole grains, lean protein, and healthy fats.
It's like giving your body the premium fuel it needs to run smoothly, right?
Exactly.
Yeah.
Instead of filling it with junk food that's going to cause it to sputter and stall.
And when it comes to drinks, try swapping out those sugary sodas and energy drinks for water, herbal tea, or even sparkling water with a squeeze of lemon or lime. It's about hydrating your body and mind with clean, refreshing beverages that don't come with a sugar crash.
Exactly.
Right.
And if you're looking for a way to unwind and de-stress, try exploring healthier alternatives to alcohol or drugs. Things like meditation yoga, spending time in nature, or even just listening to calming music can help you relax and recharge without the negative side effects.
It's about finding ways to soothe your nervous system without resorting to substances that can ultimately harm your physical and emotional health.
Exactly. And remember, it's not about being perfect or depriving yourself. It's about making conscious choices that support your well-being and help you feel your best.
This has been such an insightful conversation. I'm feeling so much more equipped to identify those not-so-healthy coping mechanisms and experiment with healthier alternatives.
Me too. It's been a pleasure exploring these topics with you.
But before we move on to the final part of our deep dive, I want to touch on something that's been coming up throughout our conversation, the importance of self-awareness.
Absolutely. Self-awareness is the foundation of emotional well-being. It's about developing a deep understanding of yourself, your thoughts, your feelings, your patterns, your triggers.
So it's like having an intimate relationship with your own inner world.
Exactly. And the more self-aware you become, the better equipped you'll be to manage your emotions, make conscious choices, and create a life that truly aligns with your values and aspirations.
I'm sold on the importance of self-awareness, but how do we actually cultivate it? It's like I'm so busy with schoolwork and social life, I barely have time to breathe, let alone explore the depths of my inner self.
I hear you. Life can be incredibly demanding, especially for Gen Z. But here's the thing. Self-awareness doesn't have to be a grand, time-consuming endeavor. It can be woven into the fabric of your everyday life.
So give us some practical tips. How can Gen Z incorporate self-awareness into their already jam-packed schedules?
Well, one simple but powerful practice is to start paying attention to your thoughts and feelings throughout the day. Notice when you're feeling stressed, anxious, joyful, or content. Try to identify the triggers that bring up those emotions.
It's like becoming a detective of your own inner world, right?
Exactly.
Noticing the clues and patterns that reveal what's going on beneath the surface.
And another helpful practice is to create space for regular self-reflection. This could involve journaling, meditation, or simply taking a few minutes at the end of each day to review your experiences and notice any recurring themes or patterns.
It's like having a debriefing session with yourself where you get to process the day's events and see what insights you can glean.
Exactly. And as you become more aware of your inner landscape, you'll naturally start to make more conscious choices that align with your values and support your well-being.
This is all so incredibly helpful. I'm feeling so much more empowered to embark on this journey of emotional self-discovery.
Me too. It's been a pleasure exploring these topics with you.
But before we move on to the final part of our deep dive, I want to address something that I think a lot of Gen Zers might be struggling with, the feeling of overwhelm.
Yes. Overwhelm is such a common experience in today's fast-paced, hyper-connected world. It's like we're constantly bombarded with information demands and expectations.
It's easy to feel like we're drowning in it all. So what are some practical tips Gen Z can use to combat that feeling of overwhelm and regain a sense of control?
One helpful strategy is to prioritize and simplify. Take a look at your commitments and see if there are any areas where you can cut back or delegate. Remember, it's okay to say no.
It's like decluttering your schedule, just like we talked about, decluttering our minds and our physical spaces.
Exactly.
Another helpful tip is to create a sense of structure and routine in your day. Having a predictable schedule can help you feel more grounded and less reactive to external chaos.
It's like giving your day a framework so you're not just constantly reacting to whatever comes your way.
Exactly. And finally, it's important to make time for activities that nourish your soul and bring you joy. Whether it's spending time in nature, listening to music, reading a good book, or connecting with loved ones, those moments of rejuvenation can help you recharge your batteries and cope with stress more effectively.
This is all so incredibly helpful. I'm already feeling a sense of relief just thinking about these strategies.
Me too. It's amazing how much power we have to shape our own experiences and create a life that feels more balanced and fulfilling.
Absolutely.
Okay, so we've talked about the importance of self-awareness, setting healthy boundaries, and prioritizing self-care. But before we move on to the final part of our deep dive, I want to address something that I think is particularly relevant for Gen Z, the pressure to be perfect.
Yes. Perfectionism is such a pervasive issue in today's culture, especially with the constant barrage of perfectly curated images and highlight reels we see on social media.
It's like We're constantly comparing ourselves to these unattainable standards, and it's setting us up for failure and self-criticism.
Exactly. Yeah. And this relentless pursuit of perfection can lead to anxiety, procrastination, and a fear of failure.
So how do we break free from the perfectionism trap? What's the antidote to this relentless pressure to be flawless?
Well, one important step is to recognize that perfection is an illusion. It doesn't exist.
Okay.
Everyone makes mistakes, everyone has flaws, and that's perfectly okay.
So it's about embracing our imperfections and seeing them as part of what makes us unique and beautiful.
Exactly. Yeah. And another helpful strategy is to shift our focus from outcome to process.
Okay.
Instead of obsessing over the end result.
Right.
We can focus on enjoying the journey, learning from our mistakes, and celebrating our progress along the way.
It's about finding joy in the doing, not just the achieving.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And finally, it's important to practice self-compassion.
Right.
When we make mistakes or fall short of our expectations, instead of beating ourselves up, we can offer ourselves kindness, understanding, and support.
It's like being our own best friend instead of our own worst enemy.
Exactly. And that inner support system is what will ultimately help us navigate the inevitable challenges of life with grace and resilience.
This has been such an empowering conversation. I'm feeling so much more equipped to challenge those perfectionistic tendencies and embrace the beauty of imperfection.
Me too. It's been a joy exploring these topics with you.
Okay, so we've covered a lot of ground in this part of our deep dive. We've talked about the importance of forgiveness, cultivating self-compassion, setting healthy boundaries, prioritizing self-care, and breaking free from the pressure to be perfect. I'm feeling so much more confident and empowered to take charge of my emotional well-being.
Me too. It's been an incredibly insightful conversation.
But before we move on to the final part of our deep dive, I want to touch on something that I think is particularly relevant for Gen Z, the fear of missing out, or FOMO as it's commonly known.
Ah, yes, FOMO, the scourge of the digital age.
It's like we're constantly bombarded with images and stories of other people's seemingly perfect lives, and it's easy to feel like we're somehow missing out on all the fun.
It's true, and this constant fear of missing out can lead to anxiety, envy, and a sense of dissatisfaction with our own lives.
So how do we break free from the FOMO trap? What's the antidote to this constant feeling of inadequacy and comparison?
Well, one helpful strategy is to practice gratitude. When we focus on the good things in our own lives, we're less likely to feel envious of what others have.
It's like shifting our focus from what we lack to what we already have.
Exactly. And another helpful tip is to remember that social media is often a curated version of reality. People tend to post their best moments, their highlight reels, not the messy, mundane parts of their lives.
It's like comparing our behind-the-scenes footage to everyone else's perfectly edited movie trailer.
Exactly. And when we remember that it can help us take those social media posts with a grain of salt and avoid getting sucked into the comparison trap.
Okay, that makes sense. But what about those times when we're genuinely feeling left out or excluded? Like when our friends are doing something fun and we weren't invited.
That's a tough one. And it's totally natural to feel hurt or disappointed in those situations. But here's the thing. It's important to remember that your worth is not determined by your social calendar.
So it's not about how many parties we're invited to or how many likes we get on our posts.
Exactly. Your value comes from within, from your unique qualities, your talents, your passions, your contributions to the world.
That's such a powerful reminder. But how do we actually internalize that message and stop letting those feelings of FOMO dictate our mood?
Well, one helpful practice is to focus on cultivating meaningful connections in your life. Spend time with people who make you feel good, who support you, who value you for who you are.
It's about building a tribe of people who lift you up and make you feel seen and appreciated.
Exactly. And when you have that kind of support system, you're less likely to feel the need to seek validation or approval from external sources.
This is all so incredibly insightful. I'm feeling so much more equipped to navigate the complexities of the digital age and break free from the FOMO trap.
Me too. It's been a joy exploring these topics with you.
Okay, so we've covered a lot of ground in this part of our deep dive. We've talked about the importance of forgiveness, cultivating self-compassion, setting healthy boundaries, prioritizing self-care, breaking free from the pressure to be perfect, and navigating the challenges of FOMO. I'm feeling so much more confident and empowered to take charge of my emotional well-being.
Me too. It's been an incredibly insightful conversation.
Now, as we move into the final part of our deep dive, I want to shift our focus to something that I think is incredibly important for Gen Z, building a positive emotional foundation. We've talked about clearing out the emotional clutter and ditching those energy drains. But now I'm curious, what are some proactive steps we can take to create a more resilient and joyful inner landscape?
That's a fantastic question, and it's really about cultivating those inner resources that help us navigate the ups and downs of life with more grace and ease. It's like building a strong emotional immune system.
Okay, I'm loving this analogy. So what are some key ingredients for a robust emotional immune system? What can Gen Z do to strengthen those inner defenses?
Well, one of the most powerful things you can do is cultivate a practice of mindfulness. And I know we've touched on this before, but it's worth emphasizing because it's really the foundation of emotional well-being.
Okay, I'm all ears. Remind us what mindfulness is all about and why it's so important.
Mindfulness is about paying attention to the present moment with curiosity and without judgment. It's about noticing your thoughts and feelings without getting swept away by them. It's about learning to observe your inner world with a sense of detachment and acceptance.
So it's like pressing pause on that constant mental chatter and just allowing ourselves to be right here, right now.
Yeah, exactly. And the more we practice mindfulness, the more we develop the ability to regulate our emotions, to respond to challenges with more clarity and composure, and to cultivate a sense of inner peace and stability.
Okay, so I'm starting to see how this all fits together. It's like by becoming more aware of our inner world, we're creating space to make conscious choices about how we want to respond to life's inevitable challenges. But how do we actually put this into practice? I mean, mindfulness sounds great in theory, but I'm not sure I have the patience to sit on a meditation cushion for hours on end.
I hear you, and it's a common misconception that mindfulness requires some kind of grand, time-consuming practice. The truth is, you can cultivate mindfulness in small moments throughout your day.
So give us some examples. What are some easy ways for Gen Z to incorporate mindfulness into their already busy lives?
Well, one simple practice is to bring mindful awareness to everyday activities. Instead of rushing through your morning routine on autopilot, try slowing down and savoring each moment. Notice the taste of your coffee, the feeling of the water on your skin as you shower the warmth of the sun on your face.
It's like hitting the reset button on your senses and actually experiencing those simple pleasures instead of just going through the motions, right?
Exactly. And another easy way to practice mindfulness is to focus on your breath. Throughout the day, take a few moments to pause and simply observe your breath flowing in and out. Notice the rise and fall of your chest, the gentle sensation of air entering and leaving your nostrils.
It's like having a built-in anchor to the present moment, something you can always come back to when your mind starts to wander.
Exactly. And the more you practice these simple mindfulness techniques, the more you'll develop the ability to calm your mind, regulate your emotions, and cultivate a sense of inner peace.
Okay, I'm definitely feeling more motivated to give mindfulness a try. But what are some other essential ingredients for building a positive emotional foundation? What else can Gen Z do to cultivate that inner strength and resilience?
Well, another key ingredient is self-compassion. We've touched on this before, but it's worth reiterating because it's so essential for emotional well-being.
Okay, remind us what self-compassion is all about and why it's so important.
Self-compassion is about treating yourself with the same kindness, understanding, and support you would offer to a close friend who's going through a difficult time. It's about recognizing that you're human, that you're going to make mistakes, that you're not perfect, and that's okay.
So it's about silencing that inner critic and offering ourselves a warm embrace instead of a harsh judgment.
Exactly. And when we practice self-compassion, we create a safe and supportive inner environment where we can heal, grow, and thrive. We're less likely to get bogged down by self-doubt, shame, and guilt, and we're more likely to bounce back from challenges with greater resilience and optimism.
Okay, I'm totally on board with self-compassion, but how do we actually put it into practice? What are some specific things Gen Z can do to cultivate a more compassionate inner dialogue?
Well, one simple but powerful practice is to notice when you're being self-critical. Pay attention to the language you use when you talk to yourself. Are you being harsh, judgmental, or demanding?
Yeah, I'm definitely guilty of that. It's like my inner critic has a PhD in negativity.
Well, it's time to give that inner critic a timeout. When you notice those negative thought patterns, try to reframe them in a more compassionate and understanding way. Instead of saying, I'm such a failure, I can't believe I messed that up, you could say, everyone makes mistakes, I'm learning from this experience, and I'm going to keep moving forward.
It's like offering ourselves a gentle pep talk instead of a verbal beatdown.
Exactly. And another helpful practice is to engage in activities that nourish your soul and bring you joy. When we take care of ourselves, when we prioritize activities that make us feel good, we're sending a message to ourselves that we're worthy of love and care.
So self-compassion is not selfish. It's actually an essential ingredient for a happy and fulfilling life.
Absolutely. And the more we practice self-compassion, the more we create a ripple effect of kindness and understanding that extends outward to our relationships and the world around us.
Okay, I'm loving this. So we've talked about mindfulness and self-compassion. What other ingredients are essential for building a positive emotional foundation?
Well, another key ingredient is connection. Human beings are social creatures. We're wired for connection. And when we feel connected to others, when we feel loved and supported, we're more resilient, we're more adaptable, and we're better equipped to cope with life's challenges.
So it's not just about cultivating a strong inner world, it's also about nurturing those connections with the people around us.
Exactly. And that means making time for meaningful conversations, engaging in activities that foster a sense of community, and being present and supportive in our relationships.
It's like building a web of support, right? Where we can lean on each other and offer strength and encouragement when we need it most.
Exactly. And when we feel connected to others, we're less likely to feel isolated, alone, and overwhelmed.
This is all so incredibly insightful. I'm feeling so much more empowered to create a life that feels balanced, joyful, and fulfilling. But before we wrap up this deep dive, I have one final question. We've talked a lot about the importance of emotional detox and building a positive emotional foundation. But what's the connection between the two? How does clearing out the emotional clutter pave the way for a more resilient and joyful inner landscape?
That's a great question, and it's really about creating space. When we let go of the things that are draining our energy, when we release those negative thought patterns and limiting beliefs, we create space for something new to emerge. We create space for joy, for creativity, for connection, for love.
It's like clearing out the weeds in our emotional garden so that the beautiful flowers can finally bloom.
Exactly. And when we tend to our emotional garden with care and intention, we create a fertile ground for growth, for healing, and for transformation.
This has been such an incredible journey. I feel like we've unearthed so many valuable insights and practical strategies for cultivating emotional well-being, and I'm so grateful for your wisdom and guidance.
The pleasure has been all mine. It's been a joy exploring these topics with you.
And to all of our amazing Gen Z listeners out there, we hope this deep dive has empowered you to take charge of your emotional well-being and create a life that feels authentic, joyful, and fulfilling.
Remember, you have the power within you to cultivate a more resilient and joyful inner landscape. It's an ongoing journey, but it's a journey worth taking.
Thank you for joining us on this deep dive into emotional detox for Gen Z. We hope you found this episode insightful and empowering. And remember, you're not alone on this journey. We're all in this together.
And as always, we'd love to hear from you. Share your thoughts, insights, and experiences with us on social media. Let's keep the conversation going and support each other on this path to emotional well-being.
Until next time, take care of yourselves and keep those emotions sparkling clean.